you go. So, welcome to
Not So Sugar-Coated
podcast. Hey, we're like in sync. I didn't think we were actually going to do that. So, this is really nerve-wracking because we've never done this before. And we don't even know how to start.
Maybe start with your name.
Oh, yeah. My name is Jasmine Dykstra. And I'm married.
My name is Brenton Dykstra, but everybody calls me Bert.
Okay, so we're going with Bert then on this?
Sure.
All right. So we are here. I guess, where do we want to start?
I don't know. Do you want to start with how we met and all that, or?
I feel like that's like a different episode.
Okay.
I think I want to. Okay, I think I want to start at how we came about, like doing this podcast.
Okay. Well, that was more you than me.
That's true. So I guess I would say that this year for us has been, I'm gonna say like a transformation, change.
Sure.
Kind of year. We started doing some things to make our life better. And I started a Couch to 5K. And I like to talk to Jesus while I run. And I felt like when I was running, I was just asking God, like, I guess, what do you want me to do next? What do you want me to do? Like, I felt like I was stuck in a rut, even though I was doing all these good changes. And then, I feel like God just said, start a podcast. And I'm like, okay. And then after I got done with my run, like Sophia and Lena, which is our kids, were running around the kitchen. And in the midst of it, I told Bert, I think we should start a podcast. You said,
Okay. Let's do it.
And honestly, we are like the biggest amateurs in the world. We do not know what the heck we're doing.
Not even a little bit.
I YouTubed everything and bought this fancy audio interface and literally went to Target because I didn't even have a micro SD card or an iPad or computer. So that's how we're doing it. We're going as we go along. But when we were talking about how we wanted to do this podcast, we want it to be real and we want it to be in a place of just not being fake, I guess. We both grew up in the church and I feel like there were some things that they weren't really honest about.
Yeah, I would say that the point of this is to take a platform that the church definitely wouldn't give us, just because I know that we have maybe unconventional opinions on things that maybe the church wouldn't necessarily want us saying from stage, just because it's a little more authentic and not all positive and rah, yay, you're going to make it and you're not going to have any issues. But the Bible doesn't say anything about that. The Bible doesn't say that once you become a Christian that your life is just going to be perfect and you're not going to have issues, you're not going to struggle. It doesn't say that. It says that you're going to suffer and that you're going to struggle. So,
yeah, and the more we are reading the Bible and the more we do our devotions, we're seeing like everybody freaking struggled, and it wasn't like a one-time deal. Like, it wasn't like David became king and then everything was fine and dandy. He had a crap ton of issues after that, like.
I mean, even before he became king, right?
Yep.
He got chased by Saul. He was trying to get killed 5 or 6 different times. And then once he became king, he had an affair. And
didn't his kids try to overthrow
yeah, I think that too. But, the Bible says that he was a man after God's own heart. So just because he had issues doesn't mean he wasn't still able to be used by God.
Yeah, and I felt like for so long, we were like, why don't they say this at church? Why don't they say talk about this? We always talk about that. And from one side of it, I do understand why they don't say certain things. I get it. You don't want to hear the word clitoris on a Sunday morning. Yes, I went there. So I understand that part. But on the other, you're still laughing at that. Do you need a minute until you get over that word?
No, that just was not something that, as you can tell, this is unscripted.
So anyways, now I lost my train of thought. But no, I understand why they won't mention certain things on a Sunday morning, But I also think that if you can't go deep enough, people are gonna try to find some deeper connection somewhere else. And what I'm starting to see is that I see it a lot in TikTok or podcast or social media where people are being like raw and authentic. Not everybody. There's some huge fakers out there, but they want to look for that connection, And so like if there's certain things that the church can't say, then let's find a good, healthy outlet and like say things that we need to say so people can like relate to it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that, you're going to hear stuff on here that you definitely wouldn't hear in church. I mean, Jasmine said what she said already.
Bert can't even say it.
Not going to say it. Don't need to say it. Doesn't need to be repeated. But, I feel like on Sundays when you go to church, they can only go so deep because their goal is to, at least the churches we've always gone to, their goal is to save the lost and maybe give a little tip or here or there on how to do it yourself when you're at your job or out in public, but it doesn't necessarily do much in the way of growing your walk, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does make sense, and we're here because another reason why we want to start a podcast is because, I listen to podcasts and so does Bert, and we don't even listen to the same ones. But we talk about it, and they're all kind of like famous people, I would say, or people who are like in full-time ministry. And
the ones you listen to are. I
true.
listen to one church-related podcast. The rest of them are nothing to do with church.
Well, I just started listening to podcasts about maybe 3 months ago.
I was going to say 3 or 4 months ago.
How long have you been listening to them?
To podcasts?
Yeah.
Years.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm just learning about this about Bert.
Yeah, I think I started listening to podcasts back in 2018.
Okay.
Back when we were in our old house.
Yeah.
When I was doing all the yard work all the time.
Oh. So that's what you were listening to?
I was listening to music, and then I started listening to podcasts. Yeah.
I thought you were listening to rap.
No. No.
No. So, okay, the ones that I listen to are like Christian based, and they're like really like full-time ministry, and so they can like do all this stuff and be in this Jesus Bible, or they have like a huge following, and kind of make themselves look like very holy. And I feel like, the everyday average American Christian, what does that look like? Like if you're not in full-time ministry, how are you supposed to like have a full-time job, take care of your kids, and also go deeper with God when that's not your vocation? Like, what does that look like? And I feel like that's not talked about.
No, it's not. And I want to throw this disclaimer out there before we get too deep, but we don't hate the church.
Oh, yeah.
We don't hate churches at all. Like Jasmine said, we grew up in the church. We still go to church. Mm-hmm. I've been going to the church that we go to since I was in 4th grade, and I'm going to be 35 by the time this airs. So I'll be 35. And so I've been going to the same church for, 20 some years now?
Yeah.
So we don't hate church.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of good that the church does, and obviously, like anything, there's a lot of bad. But we don't want to focus on the negative. We just want to focus on maybe the gaps that they're missing. And I think that there's only so much you can do in an hour and a half service or an hour service that 3,000 to 5,000 people are in on a Sunday morning.
Or 100 people.
Or 100 people if you go to a smaller church. We go to a big church. We go to a church that looks like an airport. So, but
I never thought that, but people keep saying that. Anyways.
I think it's just the general size of it, how big the church is. I mean, it's literally as big as the Ford Airport.
Okay. Oh, we're from Grand Rapids, Michigan, I guess.
But yeah, so I just want everybody to know we don't hate church. We don't hate the church. Jasmine actually used to work at the church that we go to.
Yeah, I did.
And we both volunteered there. I volunteered there for 10 years, maybe.
Yep.
Right around there. And Jasmine was volunteering there too. We met at that church.
Yeah.
We started dating because of that church. Mm-hmm. We got married because of that church.
Yeah.
So we don't hate the church.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I thank you for saying that because I totally would have forgotten. Yes, we do not hate the church. Please stay at your local church. And I would also say the church is never perfect, ever.
Yeah. And I think that people need to understand that there is no perfect church, and it's okay to move on, and it's okay to stay.
Yeah.
If something happens in your church, don't leave just because the human failed. That's exactly what it was. The human failed. God didn't fail. Mm-hmm. Jesus didn't fail. So if you have some big controversial thing that happened at your church, it's okay. People make mistakes. We're all human.
Yeah, and also because we were listening to Insta the video, they were talking about ask yourself, why are you at that church, and why are you considering leaving? Why are you staying, and why are you leaving? I think it's normal to ask that for yourself, not just I'm just leaving, or I'm just gonna stay just to stay because I'm too comfortable. So stay because God is telling you to stay, or leave because God is telling you to leave. But don't stay because it's easy, and don't leave because it's hard.
Don't leave because it's easy.
Yeah, don't leave because, even though God is calling you to stay, Yeah. So.
Don't leave just because you don't like the pastor, or you don't like the worship, or, stay because of the people. Or stay because God wants you there. Try and look at things from a different perspective. I'm not saying you can't leave, but don't automatically jump that way either.
Yeah, unless this is really jacked up like a cult or something.
Yeah, if you're in a cult, yeah, you might want to get out, but good luck.
Yeah. So we want to do this podcast. What do we want to look at? So that was one of the reasons, and another one was kind of to be real about our everyday life and struggle. And that, for me, that side of the podcast is going to be really hard for me to do because I haven't been open or wanting to share for a very long time. I would say since 2020,
Yeah.
It gives me anxiety to talk to people now. It didn't used to, and now it does, which sucks, but I'm getting better at it. And I'm trying to be at a place where I am comfortable to talk about my life. I'm not saying I want to air all of my dirty laundry out there. That's the same,
yes,
right?
That's the same.
By the way, I'm bilingual, so sometimes I say a lot of sayings that don't make any sense, and Bert corrects me because I said it wrong.
Can you say inconspicuously for everyone?
We are not going there. And so, I think that we wanted to help people. And if only one person listens to this and they are changed through it or are challenged to have a deeper relationship with God, honestly, I think we did our job.
Yeah. Hi, Mom.
Yeah, basically our parents are going to listen to this and like 2 friends or something. I don't even know.
Yeah, we're hoping that more people listen, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. We want to have fun with this. So, yeah.
Yeah. And did you want to talk about how you were feeling about the podcast or anything like that?
Sure. So when Jasmine presented the idea to me, I was kind of surprised because it came out of left field. I feel like she had never even remotely expressed interest in it before. When she presented the idea to me, I was surprised just because she had never even remotely talked about it or thought about it. And I am very set in my ways, I guess you could say. I don't do well with change or like change or anything like that. So this is kind of a big change, and talking, more openly doesn't necessarily scare me, but it's just because, like what Jasmine said, with if one person takes something away from it and improves their life from it, then that's really all that matters at the end of the day. But yeah, so when she told me, I was like, yeah, let's do it. What's your idea? And, at first Jasmine said she didn't want me to be a part of it at first. So
hold up. That's not what I said.
Okay. Well, you didn't say you wanted me to be a part of it either. You said, I don't know if I see you being a part of this at the start. Here we are in episode 1.
I think what it was is that you weren't like, okay. So, and we had this conversation a couple of days ago that we were talking about how you weren't, you weren't expressing any kind of emotion about the podcast. Like you weren't happy or scared or anything like that. And even when I asked you, so how do you feel about it? How do you feel about it? And you're like, I don't care.
Well, because it was your thing. You had told me from the beginning that you wanted it to be your thing.
Yeah.
So I was
letting
it be your thing.
And then I was like, no, I want you part of it. And even after, we did all these things together, I still asked you and you were like, I don't know. And then can I say this part?
You can say whatever you want. Yes.
You go to your therapist and then you come out of your therapy session and you're like, yeah, I told him we were talking about doing that podcast and I told him I was feeling nervous and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, hold up. I asked you 3 days ago how you were feeling. You said, I don't care. And then all of a sudden he has all these feelings that I don't know how to take out of him yet.
So yes, that is something that we'll be talking about, is going to therapy and how that's normal and normalizing things like that. So I'm not ashamed of going to therapy. If anything, it's been one of the most life-changing things I've ever done.
Yeah.
I would say, other than maybe becoming a dad.
I don't think you've ever said that.
I think, I became a Christian when I was so young that I don't know that necessarily was life-changing at 3 or 4 years old when I first prayed the sinner's prayer. But I would say maybe when I took it more seriously when I was like 21, 22, maybe that's, maybe I could say that was life-changing. So I guess those would be the top 3. And, I think I knew that I was excited to do the podcast, but I didn't know how to say it because I didn't want to come off super aggressive or like necessarily overbearing. I didn't want Jasmine to get scared of how excited I was, I guess, because, she's been so nervous and I don't know if we should do this. I don't know. And then she texts me and says, oh, I spent $700 on podcast equipment and it's going to be here tomorrow. So get ready to start recording a podcast.
Way less than 700, by the way. Thank you, Facebook Market.
Whatever. Originally, it was more.
Yeah, and then I was like, why am I buying this brand new? Especially if we're probably going to do 2 episodes.
Yeah, so we do want to do this long term. I would say the goal is to help people. If anything else comes from that, cool. But I think end of the day, we just want to share people's stories.
And our stories. Not just other people's, but yeah, and we want to do it without the church filter on it.
We don't want the church saying, oh, you can't say that or you can't do that, because, that might hurt somebody's feelings or something like that. And we're definitely not trying to hurt somebody's feelings, but we're also not going to sugarcoat it either. So,
no.
We're going to talk about infertility. We're going to talk about porn. We're going to talk about,
marriage
with kids. I don't know if we're going to get into sex with kids, but
yeah,
I would assume.
I think we need to get into sex, period.
Well, that too. What are we doing after this?
I'm going to TBD. Yeah. Anyways.
But yeah, there's Jasmine's been listening to a podcast. I've been listening to Michael Jr.'s podcast. His is all like comedy because he's a comedian, but I'm a completionist. So I started at the beginning of his podcast back in, he has like 200 some episodes or something like that. And I'm like in the 60s maybe, but like they're little clips from his show, but then he like pulls a little piece of it at the end and kind of gives like a little nugget of truth or something, kind of like a little thought to think about at the end. And I feel like his podcast has been really helpful in giving me the idea or the confidence with this one. And so now it's called like Funny How Life Works, I think. And it's like marriage based.
I like how you're promoting another podcast within our podcast.
Well, yeah. How am I going to get on his podcast if I'm not promoting it at the start?
No, we're kidding.
No.
Listen to him. He's actually really... Well, actually, I haven't listened to any of his. He was at a guest speaker, the one that I listened to. So
yeah, he's come to our church, our church before. He's been...
Yeah, I liked him.
He went to Gateway one time that we saw online, a long time ago.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Man, we're old. Okay, so...
But yeah, I feel like listening to his podcast has helped me get more excited to do this because he is also not a professional podcaster. He obviously has a team around him that helps him.
We have no team.
Our team is this little black box that's sitting on our kitchen table or kitchen island and a couple of $30 microphones from Amazon. So...
Yeah, so I am sorry for the audio. I'm not an audio tech. And quite honestly, I probably should have asked somebody, but I was too nervous and too scared. That's how deep my anxiety has ran. Because before, I would have asked people and would have been like, hey, teach me about audio. But I've been YouTubing, and Bert knows how much I hate YouTube.
YouTube is the only way to go.
So yeah, this is our first episode, and hopefully... you guys will get something out of it. Anything else that you wanted to add? Any little last?
We'll probably add this in after this, but I think we need to set up an email address so that people can send us questions.
Actually, just DM us.
Well, DM her. Don't DM me. I don't usually check social media, but...
Yeah, Bert is off social media, and that's another episode.
No, but we'll probably set up an email address at some point so you can email us questions or topics that you want us to discuss. Like I said, we're an open book.
Yeah, we are. Oh, that was another thing. So we are actually going to start with our infertility story on the next pod.
Next episode. EP number 2.
Bert hates it when I call it pod. Anyways.
It's because you sound like a dork.
He's like rolling his eyes. But anyways.
You think you're 27, but you're 37.
Forever 21. Anyways, no. Was I saying we are going to be sharing our infertility story and along with having a couple of...
2, right?
2 couples.
2 separate
3,
episodes.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
Of people sharing their story about their infertility. So... if you guys want to hear about something, you're like, yeah, I want to hear about this, but I don't know how to to put it in words, or I don't want to talk about it, but how, can you guys talk about this? DM me, because we'll throw it out there. We'll be real. We'll take the, what's it called? I don't know.
I don't know what you're trying to say. I don't know what you're trying to say.
We'll
We'll take the ball and run with it?
Yes, that.
We will take the ball and run with it.
Yes. If you guys are like, man, you guys should really talk about it as like time goes on, 100%. Or if you wanted to be a guest at our podcast and talk about something that you guys are really passionate about, throw a DM. Is that what the saying is?
I
don't know. Nobody DMs me. I'm 37, people. So all I have is like things of my kids.
And she has a TikTok where she thinks she's cool.
I've made like 2 videos, and that was in 2020.
They were in this house.
And they were not cool. They were cheesy AF.
But yeah, so if you want to send us anything, you want to be on the podcast, cool. Like, reach out. We'll see if we can fit you in somehow.
Yeah, because we have so many people lined up.
No,
and I'm being very sarcastic. No, what I'm saying is like, we want to fit you in a way that it makes sense.
Yeah, we don't want you to be talking about sports when we're trying to talk about infertility.
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's something.
Not that there's anything wrong with talking about sports. We can talk about sports. We can talk about movies. We can talk about video games. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but yeah, if you want to be on, let us know. You know, if you have a topic you would like us to discuss, let us know. If you have a question for us, let us know. We're going to have this on every major platform, I believe.
Sure.
Right?
We'll figure that out.
Jasmine's going to figure out where we're going to put this and how we're going to do it. I don't know anything, so I'm just letting her figure it out, and then I'm going to take 50% of the credit as she thinks.
More like all of the credit, because that's what a man does, right?
Oh, Lord, here we go.
Anyways, that was truly a joke. We're 50-50. Actually, no, we're not. I don't know what we are. We just help each other out.
I don't know.
When we can.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyways, but I think that's it. So, thank you for listening to our first episode. And next week, next week you'll be listening to our infertility story. And yeah, we got to figure that one out too.
Yeah. So, leave a review.
Okay. I guess I don't.
Subscribe, like, share, turn your notifications on. I'm saying all the hip YouTube podcast things so that you never miss an episode.
Yes.
You can tell Jasmine doesn't listen to anything.
I know. All right. Well, see you guys next week. Or not see you. Hear us. Listen to us next week.
So for now, it's audio. In the future, potentially video and audio.
Yeah. So, yeah. There you go. Have a great day. I don't know how to end.
Bye.